Welcome to Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello, everyone. This is Gary Wilson, and welcome to this week's podcast, Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. This is for you. Probably you're a dentist, an engineer, a pilot, almost always professional in your field, and typically even business owners. So welcome aboard. We do invest in real estate. That's not all we do, but that's kind of what brings us all together. And we do it honorably and ethically, and most of all, profitably in the areas that we invest in. So we're more into good old-fashioned blocking and tackling. And it's not that we don't use creative purchasing techniques. We do. There's a place for that, and it's just not every place. Okay, so I want you to really think through some of these podcasts and who we're interviewing and what we're talking about. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. I think we're on like 25, 30 different platforms now, and I think 28 different countries. So go ahead and subscribe, and if you want to be part of the community, it's easy. Just go to myinvestmentservices.com. And number one, there's a lot of free stuff there that you can get, just information, just download stuff, grab it. And then if you want to be part of the community, go to the members area, click on silver level, and you can be a member too if you choose to do that. So in any case, without further ado, we got a special guest today, Dan Levy. I've known Dan for almost 5 years now, and a great student, very coachable, and also very successful, multiple businesses. Typical prototype entrepreneur. You got multiple things going on, and part of it is definitely investing in real estate. So Dan, welcome aboard, man. Glad to have you.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
All right. Hey, so obviously I know you're down in Tidewater, Virginia. For those of you who don't know, Tidewater is comprised of what we call the 7 cities: Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Portsmouth, Suffolk, Hampton, Newport News, and Chesapeake. And I've lived there myself many years, and I frequent the place quite often throughout the year because, quite frankly, I love it, and a lot of friends there, family too. So if you wouldn't mind, Dan, for folks outside of Tidewater, if you could just give them a broad picture of who you are, like a little bit of background. I know you're a veteran. You've been multiple places around the world, but kind of paint that picture. It'll provide some context for everyone, and we'll dig into some content. Does that sound cool?
Yeah, sure. A little bit about my background here. Being from this area, a lot of people pretty much are there's a lot of military, a lot of transient people here. I was in the Navy. That's what brought me to this area. From there, started family, did some business. I did a vending company a long time ago, and from then I went to school, and I had been in the medical field for about 25 years now, actually. I've been in that field, pulmonary rehab. Along the way, I've started some businesses. I've sold some businesses. Currently, I have a commercial cleaning company that I have a lot of employees, over 25 at this point. I'm in Eastern North Carolina as well as Virginia because we're right on the border. And had a lot of real estate experience too. I'm actually a realtor here in this area. I have rental properties. I've bought and sold properties. I've done some rehabs, fixes, and flips. So my experience is pretty wide when it comes to that. So, and I'm driven to pursue more rental, buy and holds, and I would love to show people how to do that as well.
Awesome. And one of the things I really like about you, I mean, you're a good guy, number one, is I feel like we've become friends over the years, and I appreciate that too, is the fact that not only you're doing multiple things, but there are multiple disciplines too. And so that you've got a lot of great skills and talents that are very interchangeable. You can apply whatever you learn in the medical field, some of those skills you develop, you can apply to, running your cleaning business, for example. Right. So if we could do this, let's kind of break it down. In the beginning, you got into the medical field, and then that led to you being more like sales in the medical field. So if you could talk about that, and what did that do for you? How did you benefit from being in the medical field and then transferring or evolving or growing into sales in that area and having to deal with doctors and be able to, sell the product or service you're selling? How would you say that's something, like if you could pinpoint a few things and bring those up and and how that's helped you going forward. Because I think that anybody that's going to be successful, your entrepreneur, you got to be able to sell. You might not think of it that way, but you're constantly trying to present your case, your situation, so to speak. So in any case, if you wouldn't mind, I could expand on that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting story how the transition went from the clinical side to sales side. I had gone down to Charleston, South Carolina, a couple years, 2-3 years back, on a business adventure, and after staying there for about 7 months or so, I received a call from a colleague that I had worked with out here in Newport News, actually, and she said there was actually a clinical respiratory position that was available. She described it to me. It worked very well. It's home health care. We set up non-invasive ventilation in patients' homes with ALS and things of this nature. And things I had kind of wrapped it up over there in Charleston, so I was going to head back. So I said, "Hey, that'd be a good opportunity to look at." Now, keep in mind, in the meantime, I have my commercial cleaning business up in Virginia, northeastern North Carolina as well. So while I was down there, I actually grew the business locally in Virginia off of referrals. So it made sense for me to come back. So after about 5-6 months working with this company, the manager came up to me, and he knows that I have a business and do real estate and all these other things. And he says, "Hey, would you consider possibly being an account executive for us? With your experience, we think you could help grow our company." I thought about it, and then I said, "Well, let me see what you have to offer." So they did make me an offer that I couldn't refuse, and I became the account executive for the company. I also do some clinical things occasionally. They get 2-for-1 with me, get the clinical side and the sales side. But it's been well over a year and a half, and sales are doing well. We're doing new projects, and what I love about it is that I'm able to do things on my own time. So as long as I produce, that's why I like the company. They leave me alone. So it's really coincides with everything else I'm doing between the business, between real estate.
Yeah. So you really are independent. That's one of the things I like about this life is as long as you got a little bit of self-discipline, you can basically, create and run your own schedule. You're on your time, not on somebody else's time. And I like the fact that you're able to do that, because that's led to other things. And you mentioned a couple of them, obviously. So you're in the medical field, you got the cleaning business, you're a real estate agent, and of course you invest. And the agency part came about years later. But take us through the cleaning business, and what does that look like now? Like how it's grown in the last couple of years, and maybe the last, like since we met, for example, and then where it is now, and how has that helped you be able to do other things? Like how have you been able to leverage that to get more into your own investing, for example?
Right. No, I'm a big believer in multiple streams of income. We've all heard of multiple streams of income, and it's absolutely the truth. So I've been fortunate to have a good position with the medical company that I have a good income coming in from. My commercial cleaning business has grown significantly over the past 5 years. When I was talking to you back then, I didn't have but maybe a couple $1,000s a month in revenue, and it was slow moving. My motivation was in a different place. Once things just started clicking with the business and more referrals, my mind kind of changed. The mindset really focused, and I realized that, hey, you can do a lot with multiple streams. So I grew that. That business pretty much helps fund real estate transactions. I have income now, actually, that I have with my position with the medical company. It all goes to savings. The direct deposit goes to savings now. So that's all there to actually pay off some of the properties that I own. That's a whole nother strategy that we've talked about in the past. So I think it's key that a person that wants to truly invest in real estate, if you have good income, you have ways to develop more income, just focus on getting that money in multiple streams and let that grow your business. Lead with revenue is something that I was told a while back, and I've always remembered that.
Yeah. What's really cool about owning a business for everybody listening is, I learned this early on too, is just like you can borrow against a piece of real estate, as long as you have, equity in there, you can also borrow against a business that you own and run. So if you had your business up and running for a couple of years and you're showing a consistent profit, you have the ability to borrow against the performance of your business, and you can use the borrowed proceeds to buy real estate, i.e., income producing assets, basically
Right.
rental properties. Okay. And what's really cool is you're really creative. As it grows, you can later on even borrow against your real estate to either buy other real estate or even expand your business. Like you could buy another franchise in the cleaning business, another, say Williamsburg or Richmond or something like that, whatever. And you can leverage the two houses with and for each other. It's an amazing, powerful relationship. So if you're an orthodontist out there listening, this is what this looks like. You get out of school, you build your orthodontist or your dental practice, okay? It has intrinsic value. It has actual real value to it because it's an income producing business. Well, you can get business loans against that business. And you want to, of course, incorporate your business, make it an S Corp. I mean, I'm not an attorney. I'm just saying most service businesses end up being S Corps. You can borrow against that S Corp, use those proceeds to borrow a piece of real estate, put that in an LLC too, the real estate. And later on, that's an income producing asset that you can borrow against to buy other practices or expand your existing practice, whatever. So that's the kind of powerful leveraging that we're talking about here that Dan's describing to you. That's why I wanted so much to do this interview, because he's actually living the model. He's actually doing the model. So Dan, if you wouldn't mind, let's fast forward a little bit and then talk about you getting your realtor's license, like why you did it, what you've been doing with it, and what are your future plans for it. Because I know for me, when I first got my license, I had no interest at all in using it to serve other people. I got it for myself, for my own investing. Turns out it's another income. Your license is also an income producing asset that you can leverage to generate other multiple streams of income. It's a powerful, powerful tool. So if you wouldn't mind expanding a little bit on that, I know you and I are working on some plans for you going forward too to make further use of that. But talk about that, like the original inspiration and what you thought you were going to be doing with it,
Yeah, if I can just go back to one thing you said prior, with the business, and the loans for real estate. I have a few of them that I have recently purchased, just totally based on the business. The actual monies for the loan was lent to the business in an LLC name.
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing what you can do and build credit with your business. It's a whole nother ball game. It's a great thing. To get back to your question here with the real estate license, I'd say probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I had gone to all of these meetings, seminars, how to make money in real estate, all of these different programs that they have in seminars that you hear on the radios and everything. And I've gone to a lot of them. I've learned just enough during that process to kind of make me dangerous. Don't give you the whole story. I've met a couple people through these seminars that, hey, we kind of became regulars. Finally, one class would lead to another class, to another class, to another class. And we just finally got tired of that. And the three of us said, hey, let's just become real estate agents for investing, like what you had said. And we weren't looking to do it as a career or anything. We just wanted to get all the investment information, find the investors, and just take it. So we did that. I joined Keller Williams, was one of the companies I started with. And I'll tell you, as soon as they plugged me into it, they put me on a foreclosure team, which was right up my alley because I was looking at investing, and learned a great deal from that. Did a lot of deals, and then I ended up purchasing my own rental properties. I fixed them up and rented them out. I did some fix and flips, so I got that experience. What I learned a couple of years later when we met, actually, that you kept on saying to leverage your license. So not only do I have it now as a source to just have that knowledge and networking, but I've sold houses for friends, family, from lots of different places, and I've used that money to buy real estate. So that is a very interesting thing. And what's important, I'll make a key too, when you as an investor out there listening, is wanting to do investment deals. It's good to get somebody with a background, not just as an agent that's going to do this as a career. There's nothing wrong with that. But the mindset, I think, is a little different from agents that have properties and have done investments.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, you hit the nail on the head, man. The biggest reason I got my license was I was literally frustrated with all the agents. They weren't taught how to invest. They weren't taught how to work with investors. So I ended up creating a brokerage company where I trained the agents how to work with the investors. And as a result, we were the fastest growing brokerage company 3 years running. We literally grew sixfold. We doubled 3 times in a row. And because of that formula was just, so then now we train, I've taught over 20,000 agents all over the US and Canada. So if you're listening to this, you always want to look for an investor agent. Look for somebody like Dan, because he's not only investing, he's trained to work with you, the investor. And I can tell you the Tidewater area is an awesome place to invest. I mean, the average home price is well within a national average. There's a high percentage of renters, stable rental population all over the 7 cities. We're talking nearly 2 million people down there, and probably 60% of them are renting, So you can flip, you can buy rentals, you can wholesale, you can do all kinds of stuff. So always remember, you've got to look for somebody who's got that, they have the designation or a certified investor agent, because otherwise you're just taking a chance. Most agents are only taught to help you and I buy our own homes. You point out the pretty carpet, look at the pretty chandelier. When we're investing, we need financial statements. We need tax returns. We need an analysis of the property. We need an analysis of the neighborhood. You're only going to get that from professionally trained investor agents. So my advice to you, this wasn't intended to go, I wasn't intending to say this, but my advice to you, if you're listening, you want to invest in Tidewater, give Dan a call. I know him personally. I know he knows what he's doing. So in any case, and the other thing I figured out was, Dan, is at first I would say no to people, right? But when I started saying yes, I realized it's another way to generate revenue, and it's doing something I really like to do, which is invest in real estate. So for all the folks out there listening, I don't care if you're an engineer or a teacher or a pilot. Tons of pilots and teachers have gotten their realtor's license, okay, and have done well with it, particularly when they're investors, okay? So moving forward, let's talk about some of your properties. I know you bought some, you sold some, and we're working on a plan going forward with you to do, which is what I did. Ultimately, I'm shifting from borrowing out of need to acquire the assets to borrowing against my current assets to acquire other assets, which put me in control. I was borrowing strategically against myself and not necessarily using the opium other people's money. I'm not against it. It has its place. It's just not every place. The real wealth is built on people who build a solid foundation and eventually get to where they can be on, we call it a cash basis, which means you can pull cash out of your existing assets to buy the future properties. And later on, you can borrow against them in a safe, low risk way, low interest, interest rates, shorter terms, lower payments. But if you wouldn't mind, Dan, talk a little bit about when you first got started investing, where you are now, and where you see yourself going with this, the investing part of it going forward.
Yeah, I think the strategies have changed over time. The more experience you gain from doing deals, the more you can open your mind to look at what's a better route. So I started initially with fix and flip because that's kind of what everybody was doing at the time. Mm-hmm. And trust me, I didn't do some really good deals. So it's the ones that sting you a little bit is the ones that really train you on how to do things properly. After I had a couple failures, I had a couple really good successes. And then the kind of market kind of turned around a little bit, and I started thinking more towards a wealth type of mindset versus getting money, making yourself a lot of money. What some people would say rich. There's wealth and there's rich. It's two very different things. Wealth is forever. It's going to last a long time. Rich is quick. I tend to err on the longer term type of things. Nothing wrong with wanting to do a wholesale or wanting to do a fix and flip. That's fine. But if you're really after stability and wealth in the future for family and pass it on to generations and generations, then buy and holds are definitely the way to go. My strategy shifted recently, actually, from buying more and more and more rental properties, which I could do, and I could leverage the business to do so. But when I looked at the actual numbers as far as paying off some of these lower end loans, balances that I have on these homes, like you said, when your rentals can buy rentals, that's a great thing. It really is. So I'm approaching this zone where the rentals are starting to buy rentals. So I think that is, I mean, that is the way I would go. And if I was to tell anybody now to start off, I mean, I have very different opinions, but I have the knowledge of several different ways. So what works for some person might not work for another person. So you kind of have to cater to what the specific needs and desires of that investor are. And I do that. I talk to a lot of investors. So I think it's kind of well rounded out. And it's funny, as anybody listening here becomes an investor and gets into real estate, you're going to see things will change. It's a fast paced environment. Things change, at the drop of a hat. And right now, where the interest rates are, even on commercial loans, I one of the properties I just purchased, I got a commercial business loan at 5%. So I mean, the interest rates, I mean, are just phenomenal. So don't wait.
Yeah. Well, you touched on a couple of key points that when you make that transition in your strategy, you're going from borrowing on the front end to borrowing on the back end. What that means to you, the benefit is in your life is you go from being, you can be financially independent, borrowing on the front end. You can acquire assets at the beginning. When you're building a portfolio, it's unless you've already got a big pile of capital, you generally do have to borrow leverage. It's just a given in the real estate investing world. The difference is that you can be financially independent doing that. You can create your own wealth and income, but you still have that leverage. That's if something happens to you, you could lose your properties, right?
Right.
Moving forward, when you shift to going from borrowing on the front end to borrowing on the back end, where you acquire the asset and later on you borrow against that asset strategically. You do it in such a way that if something happens, you're still okay. You still got a solid foundation of income producing assets.
Right.
And yeah, you may take a hit because you've got that loan. But remember, you don't ever borrow. You're not leveraged up to 80% or 90%. You're never leveraged more than 50% any one time. And generally, that's a short-term basis. What that means is you go from being financially independent to being financially free. And that's what I want for everybody that I teach and train is to take wherever you are right now, just work with who you are and what you got and who you know and what you know, and start there. Be realistic and just start there. And if where that is means you got to borrow 80% or even 90%, let's do it, but let's get you started. But the path to where you can be, when you get to be 50%, leveraged, in other words, you only owe 50% of what you own. All of a sudden you can turn a corner and start borrowing strategically against yourself, okay, and your assets to keep growing a portfolio. And after that, it's a mathematical model. You just look at it, it tells you can grow your speed of growth. We call it turning the corner, goes from like more of a horizontal growth pattern to a vertical growth pattern. And it's an amazing feeling when it happens. I mean, for me, to December 15, 2015, I paid off my last mortgage. I no longer have any mortgages, no personal debt, no business debt. And it's because I followed that model. And I learned that years ago from following other people who were at where I wanted to be. And almost to a T, every one of them was doing that, man. So amazing strategy. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, we're talking about the vision and what people hopefully will strive to accomplish in this, starting where they are, getting to where they want to be. But can you think of maybe a funny story or something like looking back on it now, boy, it was kind of hairy when you went through it, but back now you can laugh about it. When it comes to whether it's tenants or a property you purchased, you thought you got a good deal and only to find out there's like a oil tank buried under the house, just something crazy like that. Because I want people to realize life's still going to happen. I mean, just like anything in life, there's a yin and the yang, the good and the bad. And every now and then you're going to have some crazy stuff pop up.
Yeah, it's true.
So anything in the mind, usually tenant stories was what I hear about. So
yeah, I have I have stories. I'm sure anybody that gets into it has stories. And I just want to emphasize too that uh, with rentals, a lot of people that I have talked to, and I have the franchise group that I belong to, and I have a business through. We have a
Mhm.
convention, and I was talking to several of the other business owners there, and a lot of them were into real estate as well. Some of them were very discouraged about real estate. They didn't want to deal with tenants. They had bad experiences, and it's just a mindset adjustment because you're going to have problems with rentals. I mean, people are telling you that, hey, they're calling, they're doing this, they're doing. Yeah, that's what happens. But the bottom line is, it's a long term play. It's a wealth producer. It's not something. If it was easy, everybody would simply do it. So
Right.
so there are going to be situations that happen. You got to get a good management system. You got to get things. It's all about the systems with rentals, and then you gauge your tolerance and you deal with it. One example I had two duplexes side by side,
Hmm.
probably about 15 feet maybe separating them. And they were in an older building. So I get a call. I've gotten a couple calls, a toilet here, a toilet there. But I got this one call from the property manager. Property manager said, "Hey, a tenant called and said there's water coming out of the ground in between the two houses. So some kind of water pipe or something busted." So right away, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to wipe out all of my cash flow for the year." So bottom line, what ended up happening was he called um, a roto-rooter type of group that came out and looked at the damage, assessed it, and they said it was going to be $4,000 to correct this while the water's coming out of the ground. And I just could not. I couldn't accept that. So, being I was in the foreclosure part of the real estate part of the career time there,
Hmm.
um, I knew a lot of contractors. So I contacted a couple of the contractors. They recommended a really good company that they were a leak detection company. They went ahead and went out there and they did the assessment, and it ended up costing me $495. So that was a big headache averted just because I had the right connection to guide me in the right way. So I could have paid the 4,000 and been disgruntled, which thank goodness I went with instinct and I said, "There's no way that could be it," and I went with contacts, and I got it done for what 1%, 10% of what the cost would have been.
Yeah.
So I think that is a lesson to learn too. You got to have the right contacts. You got to have the right people. And I know some really good property managers in this area like that. That if you decide to do rentals, there's no, I have no problem helping somebody do
Right.
this. So just that's one of the stories. There's a lot more, but that
Yeah.
one sticks out because it could have easily been, if I was not one of those people that double checked that, I could have been at the next convention the disgruntled person that doesn't believe in doing rental
Right.
properties.
Yeah. We
So
hit on a couple key points there. Number one is, always don't let things derail you. It's easy to get freaked out and worked up over something like that, but just stay calm, relax, and always ask, what are three other ways I can address this? And being resourceful is also part allows you to be more objective, and you can think, well, who do I know? And if you're new to the investing game and you think, well, I don't know any contractors, think about who you do know that may know contractors. Okay.
right,
And also networking, like do what Dan does. Go to events, go to conferences, join a local club. I mean, if you're in Tidewater, I'll let the cat out of the bag here. We're actually creating a new and unique investor group in the Tidewater area. It's not for traditional stuff. It's like a meat market, and people are swapping their bad properties. This is for real, true professionals who are sincerely interested in investing the right way. So we're creating that, and as part of that group, you're going to have access to the right vendors and the right contractors and things like that. But so a critical point there, and I know I've had situations too, Dan, in the past where, fortunately, the more you do, the more you're in the business, the more people you're going to meet, the easier it does get. Getting started, just like anything in life, when you first learn to ride a bike, chances are you fell down, but you didn't give up. You got right back on the bike. Okay. Same thing with investing. If I wrote a book on things that didn't work, it'd probably be bigger than the things that did work. Thankfully, the things that worked were far more powerful and productive than the gained me far more than the things that didn't work hurt me. So, but it's just, and the more you do it, you get used to. It's like you get comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's where the growth occurs. Growth does not occur from a state of comfort. Being uncomfortable is normally associated with growth. Okay. Hey Dan, we're getting close here, a little bit over on time, but I want to ask you one more big question. I know you got a great family. You spent time over halfway around the world, and maybe that's your big why. But if you wouldn't mind, describe to people like really what's your big why and what drives you when you get up in the morning and you look at the day, the sun's coming up, and what drives you? Because I want people to see that you're a regular person just like me, and extraordinary results usually come from people who are ordinary folks but take extraordinary actions. And I'm sure you got a story. If you wouldn't mind, just share a story, or what's your big why?
Right. Well, that's a good question. And I'm sure a lot of people that are listening have heard, what is your why? What is the reason, for being in? The key there with the big why and why things didn't work for me in the past and they're working for me now is that the why cannot be monetary. The why has to be emotional or emotion driven. So to say you want a mansion or to say you want this or material things, that's not what a why should be. A why should be based on something from inside, something you want with family, just something emotional connection that gets things done. So for me, it was to travel and to spend time with the family, to be free, basically, of the normal. The term "the rat race" kind of falls in here. And even if you're successful and you're making well over six figures and you're doing well, but you're still in a position where you're not enjoying life. That to me is you need to make an adjustment. Now, if you're happy with that, that's great. But for myself, one thing that I recently did that made a big difference for me in my why is you always see these rubber bands on people's wrists, that have people's quotes and sayings and drive. I decided that I wasn't all about other people's drive. I should be about my own. So I created my own. So I have a bunch of goals and things that are going to make my why greater. It's going to give me free time even more. Eventually, I'm going to be teaching. I mean, I want to show people if I can get my why and I can do it from where I've come, then it should be a natural progression for me to want to show people how to do that as well. So now whenever I look down on my wristband, okay,
there you go.
It's mine. So it's not something that's somebody else's or just a cliche, you can do it or whatever, trust the process or whatever the case may be. It's actually something that means something to me. So, and I'll just let you know, it's checkmate 2022. So I've given myself a time frame for this as well, and it's driven. It really does.
Yeah.
More so than anything that I've ever done, actually.
Yeah. Well, that's what you just described there, that actually really hits home. I appreciate you sharing that because you were very pointed and right and very appropriate. And for everybody listening, I was blessed to have some great mentors along the way and meet some pretty amazing people. And I can tell you one of the things I learned about myself in business is you do have to have a business plan and a business model. Like what average commission do you want to make if you're an agent? If you're a dentist, how many patients do you want to see? What profit do you want to make per patient? And then the drive, the ambition is, why did you get into the business to begin with? You like dentistry. You like helping people buy homes, things like that. So what happens is you have your model in place, you're planning your model, but the real drive, the passion, the why comes through. Well, how many people can I serve in that? How many children can I put braces on? How many smiles can I create in the world? In the case of real estate agency, how many people can I help get in their first investment property? So you focus on the service and the prosperity comes. So my famous saying is prosperity through service. Serve first and you shall prosper as a result. Another great way to think about it is Zig Ziglar had it set up perfectly. If we just simply help enough other people get what they want, we'll get plenty of what we want. Okay. And it's ideal in real estate is if you want to be a big investor, help a lot of other people invest. I promise you will be in the game, the right game, learning day in, day out. You can't, if you're an agent and you're just helping owner occupants, that's not going to help you invest. Okay. Just know that fact. It's like sports. If you want to play baseball, you can't keep going to soccer games. You got to go to a baseball game, right? Want to play baseball. So, hey, Dan, I really appreciate you taking your valuable time to share with everybody. And
no
look forward to seeing the game. And I'll be down there for a football game end of October. I'll keep you posted.
Okay, very good.
We can hook up. But for everybody listening, I appreciate your time and attention and participation. And you just got a great one today from Dan Levy. And I tell you, if you're looking to invest in a Tidewater area, hey, Dan, actually, How can they find you? Website, email address, contact number. If people who want to invest and they now know who to work with, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, they could actually reach me. I'll do a phone number here too. Actually, I don't mind doing that at all, as long as you're really interested.
Okay.
It's 757-544-3413. Once again, it's 757-544-3413. Name's Dan Levy. I do have an email I can give you. I'll give you two emails. One of them is dlevy, Levy, at buylistinvest.com. And another one is djlinva at gmail.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. I think I speak for everybody when I say thanks from the bottom of our hearts for sharing us. And for those of you listening, if you haven't subscribed yet, you might want to subscribe now because that was a pretty good podcast. Just, Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio, dozens of platforms. And if you really want to be part of the community, definitely join up. Go to myinvestorservices.com. Get the free stuff. If you want to do that, that's great. That's right there for you. But go to the members area, click on server level, and you get access to not just weekly live webinars that are totally unscripted. You get everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Tons of information and tools. Private lenders reports, cash buyers reports. But more importantly, you get direct access to the investor agents that we train around the U.S. and Canada, particularly people like Dan right here. Get direct access to them. And help yourself do a better job investing. Do something for yourself. Give yourself permission to do the right thing and get in the right place to be able to do that. So, in any case, guys, appreciate your time. We will see you next week. Thank you all. Thank you, Dan, particularly, and God bless you and God bless your families.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. Be sure to go to myinvestmentservices.com to join our community and start building wealth today.